Hello and welcome to the Last Looks podcast, a show where we catch up with talented hairstylists and makeup artists in the film and television industry. We'll pick their super creative brains and find out all the good stuff. Join me, your host, Jamie Lee, in finding out what's what in the hair and makeup departments around the world.
And now, our feature presentation.
Today, I'm speaking with hairstylist Kim Kimble. Kim is responsible for Beyonce's iconic looks, including her period styles in films like Dreamgirls, Austin Powers, and Cadillac Records. Kim chats about starring in reality TV show LA Hair, how she started in film, and what it takes to juggle staff, clients, a business, education, and her own creative work.
Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Kim.
Hey.
Thanks for joining me. Now, I would like you to finish this sentence for me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Kim, and when she grew up, she wanted to be...
a fabulous hairstylist.
That's awesome. So I love that you knew that when you were a small girl.
Well, you know, it was interesting. They always say that you do what you love to do early on. You know, you watch your kids, what they really like to do. And I used to create paper dolls. I didn't have a lot of toys when I was younger, so I would take paper and I would make dolls out of them. And I would style the hair on the paper dolls. And I always say that Barbie was my first celebrity client. I used to style her hair.
That's awesome. I had maybe, I think, like 3 dolls, but yeah, their hair didn't last very long. They ended up with like bobs and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. I would, you know, until I was young, I was in the 80s, and I would paint the hair with markers, like punk rock colors.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I grew up in the 80s, so the hair was like, you know, punk rock and all kind of craziness, going crimps, all kind of craziness.
So that's cool. So did you have creatives in the family?
Yeah, I'm a third generation hairstylist. My mother and my grandmother did hair.
Oh wow, that's awesome. So you grew up around it?
Yeah.
Your mum was working in salons, so you would go in and visit and hang out in there and stuff?
Yeah, I used to visit the salon always. I'd be sitting there all day. And I would also, you know, eventually when I got a little older, I started assisting in the salon.
Okay. So doing shampoos and tidying up and all that stuff. Wow.
Yep. But I got to learn a lot too with them.
So I'm guessing your mum was pretty happy when you decided to continue on the family craft?
Yep. Well, you know, I kind of, to be honest with you, I said I was going to do hair. She was definitely, I think she's excited that I did it. It definitely makes us closer. Her and I are closer because we both, you know, we've worked in the salon together. We always live, like she lives upstairs, I live downstairs. She actually just running in and out of here now, and I'm trying to tell her to be quiet, slamming doors and running around. I said, quiet, because she has a key to my house. So she comes in. You know, we've always either lived across from each other upstairs. We've worked in salons together. We've worked separate from each other for a little while, but we always end up together. Mm-hmm. But I honestly thought I was going to be a fashion designer first because I would do the hair, but I also would make clothes for my Barbies and all of that. I said, I'm going to do hair and work my way through fashion school. That was because, you know, at the time, Patrick Kelly was big and Willie Smith. And I really loved that style, you know, cat suits and buttons all over the clothes and just all this craziness. Right. And then I fell in love with doing hair, you know, because that was the first thing that I did. And I just stayed with it. You know, after going to like hair shows, I saw that there was more than just standing behind a chair. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wanted to do more than just stand behind a chair. When I saw like all these hairstylists, these, you know, the first thing I saw was hair shows and these hairstylists flipping scissors around and putting them in their pouches and styling hair on stage and flipping the hair around. And it just looked so glamorous to me. And I was like, wow.
Yeah. Putting on a show.
Yeah. It was sort of like a little hair entertainment, I guess.
That's awesome. So you went and did fashion training?
Well, I went to beauty college first.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said I was going to do hair and work my way through fashion school. Okay. The only thing I did was my first fashion show when I was 18. I graduated beauty college when I was 19. I went all through in high school. So I started at 16. So I
Yeah.
went through an ROP program, which that's why it took me so long, because I had to do only a few hours a day. I could go because I was in high school still.
Cool.
And I worked for a fashion designer. His name was Robert Duvall. And he was like, a local fashion designer. And he had me sewing and all that kind of stuff. And I realized quickly I didn't love sewing. And I just like designing clothes. I didn't want to do all of that. And so later, the sewing skills, I'm sure it helped me when I started weaving, doing extensions and weaving and making wigs and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And creating hair pieces. But I did my first fashion show. They did it it was a Sentinel paper. It was a local magazine in the Leimert Park area. And I was featured in the magazine. And because they picked one of my outfits because I made a cat suit that was covered in hairpins.
Awesome.
Not hairpins. I'm sorry. The pins that they close with safety
Like safety pins?
Wow. And it made the paper, and I was in the paper. So I was actually in the paper for being a designer before a hairstylist. Isn't that crazy?
That's cool,
That
though.
was my last fashion show because I got into doing hair. But what I found is, I used to do a lot of hair shows and competitions. So I would design my costumes to go with my hair. So then it became a cool thing because I was into all that fantasy hair craziness, and in hair shows. I fell in love with that first.
So designing from head to toe. Were you doing makeup on them as well, or?
I would design what I wanted, but no, I didn't. I would actually hire someone to do the makeup and someone to actually make the clothes, but I would design what I wanted,
Oh, that's cool.
Because, it was more avant-garde, which one of the things that helped me actually get into doing hair in the movie business because of that skill set.
Oh, right. So what was your first job in the film industry?
It was a movie called BAPS, because I had been doing a lot of hair show competitions. That was my thing. I used to win a lot of fantasy hair competitions, like Hair Wars, and I created like helicopters that flew. It made look like, it was spinning helicopters in the air. That's how crazy the level of hair that I would do.
Wow.
And I really loved it. And it was kind of like designing. It kind of went along with that because I would cut pieces and put them together. And so anyway, going back to how I got started is I was working in a salon, doing all these competitions, going to all these hair shows, taking all these training and learning so much about hair. And in the salon that I worked, someone had mentioned an opportunity of doing hair for Robert Townsend, who was a director, doing hair to raise money for a church. They were, it was a fundraiser. And so it was one of his movies he took and adapted into a screenplay. Okay. So I went and I asked to get the job and got the job. I knew about the hair union because my mother moved to California. So we were originally born in Chicago. She moved here to work under Ann Wallington, who's one of the first few Black people in the union. So my mother worked for her in her salon and wanted to be in the union, but it was really hard at that time to get in. So she would tell me about it. I didn't know much about it. I didn't know people really got paid to do hair on movies. I didn't realize that there were people that did hair for, you think people show up to set looking great. I don't know what I
know. Well, it's funny because I don't think, I remember that kind of clicking into place and going, hang on a minute, that's a job.
Exactly, which I never knew that. So my mother shared that information. So she kind of pushed me when I was working with Robert Townsend. Ask him if he can get in the union, And I was like, because I knew he did film. So I didn't ask him, but I after I finished the play, I kept in touch with his assistant and I asked her, do you have any opportunities coming up for me to work on film? Because I had no way knowing how to get in. I didn't even know. I knew it was a union thing, but didn't really understand what that meant. But I asked her and she said, well, I'll see what I can do. But, we have people that we work with and I just don't know if we need anybody right now. But she made the mistake of giving me her phone number. So every so often I'd reach out. Did anyone have any opportunities now? No, nothing right now. And so a couple of years went by. I went and opened up my own salon, started my own business and I was doing my thing. And then I get a call from her. She says, hi, Kim, how are you? I was like, good. She said, do you happen to have any work that you may have done where the hair is very avant-garde or crazy? And of course I do.
You're like, do I? Yeah.
I am a award-winning fantasy hair competition hairstylist. So when he saw the work, he was like, wow. make the story short, he brought Holly Berry by my salon to look at the work that I've done in the pictures. And, I get a call a couple of weeks later, and he has a producer call me and say, "Would you like to work on this film? We have a film coming up that we need you to work on." And I said, "Yeah, the only thing is I want to make sure that I'm getting into the union." Because I knew that was what had to happen at that point for me to work in film and television. And it was between me and another guy. And because he was not licensed in California, they had to go with me because the actress was fighting for him because she'd worked with him before. Because, I was a licensed hair cosmetology collegeist here in LA. I was able to get the job. They got me in the union, and the movie was called BAPS, Black American Princess. And it was starred Halle Berry, Martin Landau, and Natalie Desselle. And so that became my first film. And then after that, I worked on a couple of films with Robert Townsend. He also did Carmen Jones, which starred Beyonce. That's how I met her. And then I worked with her after that, Austin Powers. And then, I started doing television. I did Moesha with Brandy. I did the Jamie Foxx show for years. And then I got into doing more films after that. But that's how my career started, and it took off. And I was really young. I was like 23 or something like that.
Wow. And I mean, the hairstyles that you did in Bats were amazing.
Thank you.
There's some crazy stuff going on in there.
That was literally a hairstyle that I thought that was it. At that time, I don't know if I would even think about doing it now, but the craziest, that was actually pictures. He chose pictures of stuff that I'd done and so I got to recreate stuff that I had already worked on, which, and it was great. He really liked it, and it was a great opportunity. And I learned quickly what it was about, because I wasn't allowed to actually be on set because I wasn't union yet. Mm-hmm. So I create all those hair pieces and have to kind of help them, the hairstylist, put them on and explain how to work with them because, I wasn't union. I was getting in the union. They tapped hardly in on that movie. One of the things is that I had to create several of that's the difference is I had to make several of the same look. So which usually takes me hours to create. I had to create many of those because I had to do, you always have to have a duplicate. So I had to do a duplicate, a stunt double. Then there was a scene where the hair had to fall over and flop, and like it melted or something. The hair melted. So I had to create the look and then melt it, make it look melted, which was quite interesting. In my whole career, I love to take movies that are challenging like that.
Yeah.
Really creative hair wise. So yeah, that was like, I was like, wow, so this is what it is. I've got to make duplicates of the same look.
Yeah, which sometimes like you just think, oh, I only had that in me once. I can't do that again. But then you have to.
Turn it into like assembly line, basically. Yeah. You know what I mean? I had to make like several of the same thing and make it match because then I learned quick about continuity. I learned so much in that film that was so important and really key. That is, wow, this is really incredible.
Yeah. And it must have been, did you find it a little bit tricky to like not be able to follow your creation onto set? Like you weren't able to look after it throughout the day?
It was I was sad because I kind of wanted to be on there and see and learn. I think eventually they'd let me kind of come and watch. They let me watch a couple of days. They would come. The producer was like, you know what, I'm letting you come. But, I couldn't touch it. I didn't touch anybody's hair on set or anything like that. But I wanted to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just want to, you make these amazing creations. You want to follow through with it, don't you? But I mean, awesome first opportunity. Like, that's fantastic.
It was a great first opportunity.
When you've been coming up, whether it's through doing the competition work or the hair shows or salon work or film work, what has been one piece of advice that somebody has given you that's really stuck with you?
Oh, I remember they would say, well, one person said, you got to try to make it easy for yourself. Don't put yourself out there too hard because of time, understanding time, managing time, because you don't want to ever have them waiting on you. He said, never have them waiting on you. And
I think that's a good piece of advice. Yeah,
I really work on that. So that's why I end up working with a lot of wigs because I can prep. I like to take my time creating because I didn't want my creativity. So I can prep everything the night before. So it doesn't take me much time in the morning to put the wig on. You know what I mean? I really set myself up for success. And that's kind of what I think that they were trying to say, like, don't do anything that's going to be too difficult and have them waiting on you. But I want to show what I can do, So,
Yeah.
learned how to create and use my time wisely in prepping and creating things so that I can, move quickly. And I wanted to make sure that, I kept good on time because I didn't want production waiting on me. And that's something I learned early on in continuity. That was another thing, making sure that you have to be very organized. And I learned also too, it's a business. You got to manage budgets. It's a business, manage time, and you don't just get free style hair. Just style hair as long as you want, as long as you need. No, you have to come in there ready to be prepared to move quickly and efficiently. And you got to manage, but because I came in early on department heading. After that, I became a department head right away. Even after my first movie, I did the journeyman test and became a department head. I was getting jobs for department heading shows and TV shows and films. So I've always kind of ran departments. I also did a lot of personals as well, because I got a lot of clients through working on films, and so they would keep me on as their hair person, or bring me on to do projects with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a preference? Like, do you prefer to head the department or be a personal, or they've both got their kind of pros and cons?
They both have their pros and cons. Listen.
Yeah.
If we're heading a department, it can be stressful because you are in charge of everything.
Yeah.
That means you are the blame for anything that goes wrong, and you have to manage a team. And it's always, challenging it can be with, running a team. The good thing is that it gives the opportunity for you to hire people, and you can give people jobs and opportunity to work. I like the challenge of running a department too, because I like, creating the looks and designing. So if you're a department head, you get the opportunity to design all the looks. And that's my strongest point, But I think I'm a good leader. I can lead people. I make sure people are, I hire people on the team that I find people that are good at certain things. Like my mom is very good. She's also in the union now.
Oh, awesome. Yay!
Yeah. And once I got in, but because that was her dream and goal when she moved to California, that's what she wanted. But at the time, she just wasn't as focused, and it was really difficult to get in. And so anyway, but she's great at like managing accounting, like getting everybody their paperwork, making sure everybody fills up their times, making sure like certain things she's just really good at.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of putting a team together, is making sure you get a group of people who have different skills, so that you can join all those things together and have number one team, really, right?
Right.
That's awesome. So if we go back a little bit and talk about some of these period looks that you created for Beyonce when she was doing like Dreamgirls, Austin Powers, Cadillac Records. So how much fun was all of that?
Oh, I have to say, because that's when I did the play, remember the play I did for Robert Townsend early on in my career, it was a period piece. And I fell in love with it because I love the researching. And I was really a huge fan of like the Supremes and Motown era and the hair and 60s. And I loved that. So I got a lot of references. Like Diana Ross was a huge reference because she had just really cool hair in the 60s. And, I enjoy the research. I enjoy the challenge of making it look like it did. And I came up with my own little techniques of creating those looks. I was double stacking wigs, and I was like, working. My mother was a great help because she started styling hair in the 60s. So she had a lot of information she could share with me on how they created that type of look. So that was really fun and really cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then recreating Etta James for Cadillac Records. That must have been
so much
quite
fun.
A wonderful thing to be able to do. Yeah.
It was, because it was different. It was because it was an actual. See, when we did Dreamgirls, it wasn't an actual person that we had to duplicate exactly. I got inspired by so many different iconic people in the 60s. This was a specific, you got to match. And we found actually photos of her and had to match them, during that time. And so I thought that's the difference with that. The research has to be exact, and so you can really see, we have to put you in that place. where she was. And because some people may look and be like, you know what, she didn't wear her hair like that in that time, So you got to be really on point with that. And, I thought it was a really great, plus I love music. I love music in that time. I love Etta James music.
Oh, yeah.
And so and I love Muddy Waters and all of that. So it was really cool to actually recreate some iconic person's hair. That's about our job, that we get to do all of that.
Yeah. And I think it's some kind of trick, isn't it, to be able to capture the essence of that person and what you're doing.
It's an art form. That's why, it takes an art form. I mean, who has that good eye for that too, and catch those little things that were created back then, and understanding. That's why when I have a class that I've been teaching, we did 4 series of period hairstyling classes. I did it with friends. And, when I taught my class, I explained to a lot, because, I'd done a live class with them, and I had some of the hairstylists in the union say, I would love to learn how to do period hair on multi-textured hair. So I felt it was important when I was teaching the classes that they understood also how Black people were doing their hair at that time. Oh, and this is why it looks like this, and this is why it acts. So you understand when you're recreating the look, you get, okay, I have to make sure I do this. I said, yeah, they had to straighten their hair before they finger wave their hair in some kind of hairstyle. Or, they all had different textures. So some hair might be curled, you don't have to make them all look the same. So I took kinky wig and relaxed it so it can actually mimic what the hair does. So you don't buy a straight wig that doesn't look it won't look as authentic.
So it's having that correct underlying texture to start with, to then get that end result that matches and looks right. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's the difference, And some like the person who did Cadillac Records was a Caucasian guy, but he understood texture. So he did a great job in choosing the right texture of wigs that really look like African-American hair.
Yeah.
And I have to say, he did a great job on because I just did personal on that. I was just Beyonce's hairstylist.
Yeah.
That's what we did with her. We had to get a wig, perm it to make it kinky, because her hair was going to be wet in one scene. And we wanted it to look like real Black hair when it gets wet. Etta James' hair was not going to be straight when it gets wet. It's going to be kinky. And so all of those things are super important, and her hair looked broken off a lot because she bleached it. So I want to make sure when I cut the wig, it looked kind of not too perfect, like broken off, because
little kind of chewed on the ends.
I'm really anal when it comes to specifics about creating hair for a period, or even for someone mimicking another stylist. Another iconic person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And someone who's so well known as well.
Exactly. You want to do as you possibly can.
Yeah. And then you also have the tricky situation as well with Beyonce being so well known that for the viewer to be watching the film and not be seeing Beyonce, but be seeing Etta James.
Yeah, I have to say that was one of the things on Dreamgirls that I kept getting in a little bit of trouble. I don't know how I ended up getting in trouble. I shouldn't have been getting in trouble for this. But one time the director said, "Why are you making her look so gorgeous? How do I not make her look? There's no way I'm going to make her. You can't make her look ugly. I don't know what you want me to do." I guess because she was, she's a glamorous person and a star already.
Yeah.
And her star was shining brighter than the other stars. Unfortunately, that's what she does when she walks in the room. I could try to listen. I thought she was toned down from what we normally do. She's normally blonde and her hair is like big and long, and this is like short hair and dark. Like, she's still pretty. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's like, dude, that's coming from within. That's not me.
It was another job where I was a personal. I said, well, make the other girls look pretty. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's tricky. You're like, do you see what I'm working with here?
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny what ends up, notes that you get about things sometimes, and you're like, what? Yeah. Okay, I'll try.
All the interviews I've ever done about Dreamgirls, I've never said that part, but it's true.
Yeah, it's tricky. And what other work have you done with Beyonce? Have you done tour work with her, or?
Yeah, music videos, tours. magazine covers, album covers. I also department head her projects like Lemonade and her campaigns. This recently she did that Adidas campaign, and I designed a wig that had Ivy Park beaded into her hair. I've done everything with her. From touring. I don't do much touring now, but early on in her career, I started off with touring, and then I went to doing just everything that she did, appearances, red carpets. I was her personal hair person for everything. So I started off in film before I met her. So I was in film, television, then I became a freelance. So I've also dipped away a little bit from union stuff, and I've worked with musicians. So I would do a lot of, I work with Mary J. Blige and Shakira and a lot of musicians, Whitney Houston, a lot of different music people. Because of her, I became Brandy. I became really popular in working on music videos and things like that.
That's very cool. So just talk me through how that position works as a hairstylist when you're on tour with a musical act, because that is a world that I have not stepped into, and I don't think a lot of film hairstylists have. Some have been lucky enough to, but I imagine it's a bit different.
It's not as glamorous as it sounds.
No, nothing ever is, I don't think, Kim.
But one thing I learned since I've worked in so many different genres, I understand how they all operate. TV and film, you're creating a character, things like that, right? When you're creating a hair icon, you're establishing, first of all, a look for that person. So there's a lot of creativity that goes in developing a look for them. Then also it's live performance. So a lot of my union experience really helped me in that area, how to anchor a wig well, because, or how to anchor hair, make the hair hold, because, wind's going to be blowing. And
yeah, that girl's moving on stage.
And moving and creating movement in the hair, so making sure that it does move and making sure that it's big and bright. Or you can see, because you see an image on a stage, you've got people sitting in the nosebleeds. It's like they need to be seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with color, or it's big, like if you notice all the iconic women that perform, like Tina Turner, Shaka Khan, Patti LaBelle, oh God, what's her name? Just a lot of your bigger, Diana Ross, they always had big moving hair. You know what I mean? They're performing, they're on stage, and they're exuding this image. And so it's a whole nother type of way of thinking. But Sade would go out there with her little ponytail, but it was her look. She didn't have crazy hair, but her music was very subtle. She wasn't dancing. Beyonce dancing, Tina Turner's dancing, they're throwing hair. So it's really creating that look that fits that person and helping to create this whole image, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, you're on the road, you're traveling. That's not my favorite. Going on tour, or you're sleeping on a bus, when you're traveling. In a movie, you have your stuff there. It's set for you. You have the convenience of food, being prepared on set. Not there. You have to find food. You got to get up on time, make sure you eat. You got to have your stuff, get it on the bus, and leave. And sometimes you may, leave right after an event. You don't start till late, though, unless they're doing a ton of press. But you start late in the day, so you don't have the whole all day thing. But you're there all night because they perform, and then afterwards you get ready and get on the bus and you go to the next location. And you got to make sure you have everything on the road, because you might be somewhere that they don't have stuff, because you're in all different parts of the country. The beautiful thing is actually seeing, traveling and seeing, but you don't get to see it long. But it's kind of an interesting experience to see different places, different parts of the world. They travel to towns you didn't even know existed, or there's some places you go that are beautiful, and then there's also places, but it's tough sleeping in a different hotel every day, every night.
Totally gypsy life, isn't it?
I hate flying, so I prefer to be on a bus. And so there's some parts about it I like. I like going to truck stops. Don't ask me why, but the truck stops are so interesting. It's different kind of the convenience stores, and it's got so much stuff in it, and it's got showers and stuff in it, because truckers have to stop there. So all these truckers stop at all these truck stops and different. I wake up and I'm in somewhere in the South, in some crazy town. But I the only thing I liked about it was the truck stops, to be honest. And you can buy food there, you can eat it on the bus. You can watch movies on the bus if you got a nice bus. If you don't have a nice bus, it's really gross and you don't love it. So it's a gamble. But most, somebody like Beyonce probably have nice buses. The tour that I did with her, we flew a lot.
Okay.
So we flew buses, really. And I would go in and out on spot dates. I didn't go every day.
Yeah. And I mean, that's another tricky situation, flying a lot as well. It's just having to, pack and unpack and pack and unpack and
I had to have an assistant, someone just to help me pack and unpack because you get tired of it after a while.
Too much. Yeah.
I don't do as much traveling, but most of my career I traveled, I want to say, like sometimes I would travel 2 or 3 times a week, going back and forth to Europe, back and forth to New York.
Yeah.
Not so much because budgets are cut so much now. People don't fly you everywhere. I was blessed enough to most of my career and first. It's expensive. Yeah, it is expensive, but it did make a difference. I'm not going to lie. Because if I'd have flew and had to fly that way without being as comfortable, I don't know that I could have made it. It does take a toll on your body after a while.
Yeah, you'd be exhausted. I mean, you get to your destination and you need to be able to do your job.
And sometimes you get off the plane and you have to go straight to work, which I did many times. Red eyes and the stress of traveling. Traveling is stressful. In so many different ways, I don't even want to get into that because it can be stressful. But traveling is a stressful part of the job. But also, it's great I've seen so many places and I've experienced so many things that it's great to be able to now, in hindsight, go back and look and see what I've done and where I've gotten to go. I wish some places I could have stayed longer and really enjoyed them because you don't get to enjoy them as much. But at least I can say I've seen the world, a lot of places. I've been on almost every continent out there. However, it is stressful and takes a toll on your body. Like you feel it now, And so at the time the adrenaline was going, I'm working, I'm going and going and going and going. And it was fun, but stressful and interesting. And I've had times I cried because my car wasn't there. So when you're doing a movie, it's so much more organized. People are they're well organized. And travel with a movie is different. You're going with a group of people and transportation set up. You ain't got to worry about any of that stuff. There's food. Productions, they really are the most organized part, the whole hair world, I'll say.
Yeah. I still remember years ago, and I think I'd done like 3 jobs in a row, and it was just, every day someone was telling me where to park and telling me when to eat and do all this type of stuff. And then I had some time off and I was driving into the city and I was like, where am I going to park? Where is locations to tell me where to park right now? It's like I miss my film people telling me what to do and where to go. It's hilarious. Yeah. So out of everything that you've done, is there a type of project that you haven't done that you would like to?
Let me see. Let me think. Gosh.
Whether it's a genre of film that you would like to give a go or...
You know what I would love to do? I would love to do, I love like all those old, like Victorian movies. Like they do a lot of it in like the UK and Scotland, in Europe, they do a lot of those big period pieces or something like Game of Thrones. Like I haven't done anything like that. That would be cool to do.
Yeah. So something with the big hoop dresses or some type of fantasy.
Yeah. I mean, I've been here for it before for other stuff, but never for a film like that, of that kind of film where it was all that. That might be, I think, because that's a whole nother creative, type of film. Listen, I've done Marie Antoinette and put boats in it and all kind of craziness because I love that picture of, the women I did one with bird cages in it and all that kind of stuff. And that's challenging. So I would love to do a film. I did it for other things, more theatrical stuff, but I haven't done it for a film. It might be fun to do something like that for a film. Like if they did the story of the women that wore their hair like that with bird cages and all that. Because of fantasy hair, it kind of takes me there a little bit. I would love to do something like that, or space. I love, the closest thing Wrinkle in Time was really crazy creative hair. Women from the Universe. That was my way of trying to do a little bit of futuristic, but I'd like to go all the way futuristic, like something. I don't know of a movie that's really futuristic when it comes to hair.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because there's so many directions you could kind of go in, isn't there? But of course, at the same time, you're relying on the director's vision and then costume designer and kind of making it all fit together.
Exactly. That is a challenge, and I don't know. I kind of enjoy that process as well. But I will say it would be, if I wanted to do a hair show. I mean, I've done plenty kind of futuristic stuff for hair shows and my own creative stuff. But it would be fun to do something like that for a film.
Yeah, totally. Because yeah, I think it's creating another universe of sorts, isn't it? Creating the look for another world.
So that's the one thing when I did Wrinkle in Time, the director was like, "Oh, these women are from the universe," and I didn't have any reference. What is women from the universe? And so there's nothing I could reference. I had to dig into my creative mind and say, okay, how do I create women from the universe? Because I had no references to find other than sci-fi or something like that. But it was nothing to copy. I had to actually use my mind, my brain to create, okay, what would these women be like? So I had to pull from things like sci-fi, but at the same time, these women they're from the universe. So I was inspired by, like minerals, and I kept thinking, so like that's why we did certain hair colors and what stars kind of have going on, the colors of like what a star looked like. So I would get inspiration from those type of things to create the looks for Wrinkle in Time, because it wasn't too sci-fi, but it had to look like women. They couldn't look like women just coming from the office.
No, there was something fantastical about it. Like everything, their costumes, their makeup, their hair, they were a situation. Like it was very cool.
It was a lot going on, but that was what the director, this is how it worked. But I did like the challenge of having to use my mind. But I had done fantasy, so I wasn't intimidated by it at all. But the thing was not to make it too fantasy, not like what I would do in competition. Make it a little relatable, but yet make it a little creative at the same time.
Yeah, because I guess you don't want to take the eye away from what's actually happening in the story, right?
Crazy. It just didn't, I don't think it merited for that. Also based on the clothes. The clothes were like, and each woman we had, through wardrobe, I was looking at the clothes, and when I would look at the clothes, it would help me figure out. Plus the director telling me, like, for example, I know that Mrs. Who, I believe it was, she was all different cultures. So everything about her hair was like mixing cultures. You know what I mean? Also, Mrs. What's It was more ethereal, Now, I probably would have done a different color, but the director wanted red. So I went with red, but Ethereum is more pastel-y to me and more, angel-y kind of, and Tinkerbellish. Like she was more like a Tinkerbell kind of person. So I would have probably done a different color, but it still worked. And then the Mrs. Witch, what was her name? I think it was. She was more, the queen of the universe. And, she's 30 feet tall. So her hair was more bolder and the colors were very metallic, So I had different things that helped me create them because they were the ones that had the most, I want to say, creative look. However, I know there was a scene where we had to do these mothers that lived in outer space. And so, I did their hair in a bun, but turned it into like a sphere ball. So it's like they have like so it was sort of like a bun, but it was a sphere, like a planet sitting on top of their head. And we had to do, it was like kind of like a scene where it was like, oh God, what was that movie? It was like Stepford Wives kind of thing. It was like a space Stepford wife kind of thing. And so they all had to have their hair in that ball. So when I could design that look, I'm like, all these women have to have a ball. That was a challenge. Trying to create all those balls for all different colors and all different textures because they all had to have their hair match their hair. So it wasn't like and I thought it made sense because they had all kind of women, different colors, different ethnic backgrounds. And so that was a challenge, but that was, I could have just done a simple ponytail, but no, I wanted a ball because they were from a different planet.
That's
and
cool.
So challenging, but it was fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of the challenging things end up being a bit more fun, don't they?
They do. It's worth it at the end when you get the final result. I seem to find myself always on jobs that do that challenge me. And I'm happy about it because it made me very resilient. Like you can hire me on any job and I could probably, you say, I need you to do this. Like I can knock out extras. Because a couple of times for friends I came and worked background for them, I would have 20 people, like finger waves or whatever. So I would have to do 10 people. I could knock them out really quick, because I because I'm so used to doing so many things.
Yeah.
I oversee like 20, 30 dancers for Beyonce, or we've done like 3 or 4 Super Bowls. And then I recently did Shakira's Super Bowl with J-Lo. They did the Super Bowl recently. And we had 20 dancers, 30 dancers, and I always oversee all the hair for that, because the artist wants to make sure they have a certain thing with the hair. So then I have to hire a team, and then we have to prep it and do all that stuff. And so I'm used to doing that too for movies. It's so interesting how it kind of ends up going hand in hand. The experience of working on films and big films that required a lot of hair makes it easy for me to do stuff like that.
Yes.
But I seem to find it. I seem to find those jobs that require a lot, which I'm not mad at it at all.
No.
I'm not afraid of work.
No, I don't. I think most of us in this industry, you can't be afraid of work. Oh my goodness, you're in the wrong line of work if you're lazy, I think.
Yeah, but there's some out there.
I know, but are they? Do they get enjoyment? Are they fulfilled? If they're not challenging themselves.
But hey.
Yeah. Well, each to their own. Everyone's different, aren't they? I was going to say too that Wrinkle in Time, you went to my home country down in New Zealand.
Wow, I loved it there. Oh my gosh. And I heard your accent and I was like, ugh, but I wasn't sure. But New Zealand, first of all, I did a movie in Australia for 4 months. I was down at Kangaroo Jack. It was a movie. That was the first time I've done something like that. It was a men guy. I was doing his hair. I was his personal, and they took me down there at Sydney, and I was in Coober Pedy and Alice Springs. I was all over Australia.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I had, we'd have weekends, and one weekend I said, I really want to go to New Zealand. I didn't get to go though when I was there, because I wanted to go and experience New Zealand, because a lot of people from the crew went over there, but I just didn't feel like I had enough time. So, and I was always afraid to go and not get back on time, because even though it's close, it's still a little plane ride. Anything can happen. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I got blessed years later to do a movie that took me to New Zealand, and I had a great experience. I actually got to fly on top of a glacier.
Awesome.
Which I thought was cool. I'm like, I'm up here on the snow, but it wasn't cold. I thought that was interesting, because on top of the glacier, it looks like it's not that cold up there. It was not that, but there were so many cool things about New Zealand. I have so many pictures when I was there. By a lake where they do a lot of hiking there. It was a little town. We stayed in a small town. We were in the second part down. There's like 2 parts to New Zealand. There's like a north and a south.
North Island, South Island, yeah. You guys, were you down around Queenstown?
Yeah, Queenstown, because we were in a couple locations. And I really enjoyed it. And I realized what good food was too, because the food.
Oh yeah.
Listen, it goes right through you. That's how I know. I said, "Oh God, our food is poisonous." Nothing like that there, But yeah, I was so happy. So that's cool.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. Your reaction was priceless. I was just like, "Oh, she must have enjoyed it! Yay!"
I want to go back. There's a bunch of little islands too, not too far from me. I want to go.
Yeah, go check it all out. It doesn't take long to see New Zealand. It's so small. So
we drove a lot, hours, from locations to locations. Yeah. So I got the beautiful part, like the countryside, and it was beautiful. Like driving through and seeing the mountains and the cows of pasture, and oh my God, it was so, in the lake. Oh, I wish I could stay in one of those cabins up there by the glaciers. Yep.
That's awesome. Hey, now I wanted to talk a little bit about LA Hair. So the reality TV series that followed you and your staff in your salon. Now, tell me, how does something like that come about?
It was so interesting. Someone emailed me, my publicist at the time. I didn't have that publicist anymore. Emailed my publicist saying, we want to see if Kim is interested in doing a reality show. And she said, I'm not with you anymore. But she forwarded me the email, and I actually responded. And I responded, and I said, well, let's meet. So I met these couple and these producers, and they said they wanted to do that. And I was like, I didn't think much of it, because to be honest with you, I had got into developing. I wanted to develop my, TV shows. I wanted to produce and develop beauty content shows. I got turned down so much. So I just was like, this probably is nothing. I was like, but I'll follow the lead, whatever. I didn't think anything would happen. I did the little reel thing they wanted to shoot, and they sent it to a production company. So they wanted to meet me in person. So I went to meet them, but I had gotten turned down so much that I thought nothing was going to happen. And it really was, the shows that I was developing really wasn't about me and my salon. It was other things. Because I was like, no one wants to see me do a show about me and my what I do, right? Except for these people. And I was like, this is not going to happen, right? So I was like, whatever. But I just followed the steps. And then next thing, I met the production company. He said, oh, I really like you. And then I said, okay, fine. Now, normally I would go on pitch meetings. I didn't go on any other pitch meetings. They went and did pitching on their own. And I know, I get a call and say, oh, congratulations. WeTV is going to pick up the show. And I'm like, what? And I also, too, I wasn't sure that I wanted to do a reality show about my salon because I know how dramatic salons are.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because reality shows are just all about drama, aren't they? So, yeah, I mean,
I didn't think it was going to happen. And I said yes so fast. And it was because I had no choice. I didn't have time to think about it. They were ready to move. When something works, when it works for you, it moves fast. And I was just like, oh my God, this is happening. And the day they brought the cameras in my salon, I was like thinking to myself, what are you doing? I've never even worked on a reality TV show other than like American Idol, the union ones that are like, but this was not that. What are you doing? And I was so scared. I didn't know if there were going to be cameras hiding in a bush. I didn't know what to think. However, it became to be something it was a little stressful, but I kind of enjoyed it because I got to be an executive producer on the show. I got to produce a lot of content for the show, like all the hair stuff that I would do. I came up with a lot of ideas of what to do on there. Sometimes it was very dramatic, though. The drama was a little tough, but I was very strong in keeping myself out of certain things.
Yeah, I think because your image is on the line, really, isn't it? So you wouldn't want to be getting...
What I learned is you can't control what other people do. And camera changes people. People that I had worked with for years changed. The camera comes on. And so I did. So there was some ups and downs there, but I don't regret it because a lot of people admired the show and admired what I did. You know what I mean? On the show.
Yeah.
And really, so I got used to it and I liked it because I was really camera shy before that, even though I'd done a lot of interviews and I would do a lot of makeover shows. I was the queen of makeover shows. I was on everybody's makeover show who had one back then.
Yeah.
But doing that really changed everything. So now even when I do stuff like that, I understand TV in that aspect a little bit better than before because I had it went on for 5 or 6 seasons, LA.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I was going to ask what kind of effect the show had on like your career and the salon. And
it helped my salon. I got more people coming to the salon. Although some people were scared to come to the salon because they thought they were going to be on camera. But my salon was so big, 4,000 square feet, you didn't even see half of it.
Yeah.
You only saw a small portion of the salon that was on camera. And so we were very respectful to clients. And most of the time we had them bring in, like I wouldn't let them work on my real clients unless I got permission and they were okay with it. Otherwise, they had to cast people and bring them in.
That's fair. I think that's good.
Yeah, it worked out. It worked out great and people really admired it and it took me in a whole nother direction. I started doing more appearances at trade shows and hair shows and I got to go around and meet people and I just did something different. And that's the one thing about my career. I do jump around to different things and it's been great to do that,
Yeah, well, you obviously just, an opportunity presents itself and you're like, I'm just going to see where this takes me and you go for the ride. And obviously it pays off. That's awesome.
Right. So it did.
So what kind of skills do you think are necessary you manage people, business, you've got like a hair product line. There's so much going on and then still to continue being a creative artist. So what kind of skills do you think are necessary to like balance and juggle all of that?
Yeah, it's really tough. Resilience. You must be very resilient because you're not going to get a lot of sleep. I had to juggle. Even with LA hair, I'd be doing real jobs sometimes in the middle of shooting LA hair, and I had to juggle that or even make it a part of the show. Sometimes it would have to become a part of the show. It was so many things going on, but you have to be very resilient, very organized. You got to have a good team. You're not going to get as much sleep and rest, and it's a lot of sacrifice to do all those things when you want to do that much.
Absolutely.
It was a lot. I'm not going to lie, but I started off my career always doing a lot. I worked long hours before I started working in film and television in the salon. I'd be booked from 7 a.m. till I'd be there 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So I built up a stamina early on.
I think salon work really does that to you. I mean, God, I remember not even like eating until sometimes like 4 or 5 in the evening because you just keep going and going and like next client, next client, next client on your feet all day, just going for it. So,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. So, what professional ethics do you think stylists should take seriously?
Business, I think for sure, you got to have some kind of business to do any of it, some kind of business skills, because I think that's important, how business you are when you're in these situations. I mean, as a hairstylist, I took so many classes, cutting, working on wigs, shoot, everything. Every class that came about, I took it because I didn't know where I was going to, how this was going to all work,
Mm-hmm.
what this was like. But I felt prepared because I think that, I just think that my career has taken me so many different places that I never knew and opportunities. And I'm so glad that I was prepared. I had those years in the salon to really build up my stamina to practice all of those things that I learned, So when I got on set, because there's no time, they're not waiting for you to figure it out. You got to know what you're doing and you got to move quick. And I would say that I was only in the salon 4 years, maybe even 3.5 years before I started working on set.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like I had years in the salon before I worked on the set. But all those years I was taking up classes and I had a lot of clients, sometimes 20 to 30 people a day.
Yeah.
So I was working really hard, but it gave me a lot of experience. And so I'm grateful because I feel like, oh, wow, I can do a lot and manage a lot. And I started a business right away, too. So opening up a salon, that was, a lot. So I juggling a lot early on.
And managing people, I mean, that's a big part of film work as well. When you have a team working under you, you have to, and they're creatives, like the artists as well. So that can sometimes, I think, be a bit more tricky to manage people who are creative.
Yeah, exactly, which is not an easy task. And luckily I had some experience, so it did help. Now, I'm not a person that will recommend people to take on a lot because it's really hard to do a lot of things well.
Yeah.
I will say that. Can't say I didn't have my challenges. Can't say that it wasn't perfect. It was not perfect.
Yeah. So, as an experienced stylist and you offer education to others yourself, so what is something new that you have learned lately that excited you?
What I've been learning lately has nothing really to do with hair union stuff, though, that I was excited about, because I feel like early on I did a lot of training and learning and stuff like that. So what I've been excited about lately that I'm learning, because for years I've been working with hair pieces and wigs and cutting and coloring. I did so much in my career when it comes to hair, even starting in the salon. So is it something, do you want it to be hair related or does it matter?
No, I mean, it's a career related. It doesn't need to necessarily be.
It's still kind of related to hair because I've been learning about creating more like entrepreneurship. So more like creating products and developing products and selling my hair products through specific stores and things like that. So that's like my new project. My new excitement is learning how to manage and build and create a brand. So that's kind of, hold on again. Sorry about that. I got stuff going on today. So everybody's showing up now. But I guess for me, creating, I guess the newest thing would be like entrepreneurship, creating and developing products and getting that business to moving and learning more a little bit about technology, and somehow marrying that with what I do.
Absolutely. It all goes hand in hand, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
That's very cool. So what's next for Kim Kimble? What have you worked on recently that we can look out for?
Well, I'm creating my own digital TV show.
That's cool.
So that's kind of something I'm excited about. I created my own digital TV show that I produced, created, and kind of doing it myself. My YouTube channel. And that was kind of fun to do.
So is that launched?
It's not launched yet. We just shot our first episode. So we'll be launching soon, though. Yeah, that will be launching soon. My products are, we're doing more products in stores. We have launch coming out in Sally's Beauty. We're getting ready to do a new launch of products on HSN, which is a home shopping network. Yeah, we're doing launching a line of wigs. That's what I'm saying. I'm into more entrepreneurship. However, I still do TV, film. I just don't do it as often because I used to go from job to job. But I'm learning as an entrepreneur, you have to give it, because I've had a business for a long time, but I wasn't able to give it much time because I was always working, but of course the circumstances have changed a little bit. Now I have more time. I'm enjoying that part of my life. But yeah, I don't have any movie or TV projects yet that I'm going to be working on yet.
Well, you got your own TV channel situation happening, so that's very cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I've been dealing with that. Like, maybe that's the kind of new, creating like YouTube tutorials, doing online consultations with like mentoring others. So that's why I said, when I say more digital stuff, that's what we've been doing. So I've done classes, a Zoom class, I've done like a Zoom consultations, Zoom mentor situations. So I'm kind of liking this digital world. We just also did a game show not a game show, but we did get a giveaway, like a Wheel of Fortune for hair.
Oh, that's cool.
So like those kind of things I'm getting into is so different from working on sets and stuff like that. It has been really creative. But I'm sure there'll be a project once things kind of change that will be coming up, and I'll probably take it.
Oh yeah, you'll always get drawn back in.
I'll never leave completely. I will take more time to do other things.
So something I ask everybody is, what one tool or product would you never want to be without? So you have your whole kit, but if there was something that was taken out of that kit that would freak you out, what would that tool or product be? I'd
be lost without a flat iron.
Yeah,
I could do so much with it, and there's like no way I would ever not have one.
Yeah,
like I always gotta have, because I can curl, I can flat iron with it, I can do many things.
Nice. I like how quickly you answered that question. You're like, flat iron, that's it.
I know, because I know that is the thing, that if I don't have it, I will lose my mind.
So what one person would you like to hear on the podcast?
One person I'd like to hear on the podcast?
Yeah.
I like Joy Zapata.
Joy Zapata? Yeah, I mean, she's got a wealth of experience, doesn't she?
She does, and she does great movies. I would like to hear about her. Yeah, I think I would like to hear her on there.
That's awesome. Sounds great. Hey, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Kim. It's been really awesome.
Wow, thank you for having me. You took me down memory lane.
That's awesome.
I was so excited to know that you're from New Zealand, one of my favorite places that I've ever visited outside of, home.
That's awesome. Thanks, Kim. For links to see more about our guests, go to our Instagram at The Last Looks Podcast or our website, thelastlookspodcast.com. If you want to keep up with new episodes being released, be sure to subscribe through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, or any podcast streaming platform. And remember, if you're enjoying the show, share it. The Last Looks Podcast would like to thank Brett Stanley and Sabrina Castro. The song Fun Time by DJ Quads. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
That's a wrap, people.